The religious landscape also changes in Boston after the Revolution. The Anglicans had fled, but the Congregationalists no longer will dominate. King's Chapel, which had once been the seat of the Anglicans in Boston, now is empty, and in the late 1780s it becomes a Unitarian church. James Freeman Clarke becomes the minister, introducing a new religious idea of Unitarianism. It's a more liberal form of Congregationalism. It downgrades the idea of the Holy Trinity, replacing it with the idea of the unity of God. We don't need to get into the theological implications of this. Suffice it to say that Unitarianism becomes a growing force within Congregationalism, and by the 1820s is going to divide the Congregationalists throughout Massachusetts, as some congregations will become Unitarian while the minister remains a Congregationalist, or vice versa. So what you might see if you travel around New England might be two churches on the town green, one a Unitarian and one a Congregational church. And these divisions were ultimately decided by court cases. Who owned the silver, who owned the building, and typically one group might get the church silver, the other would get the building, and the group that got the church silver then could buy their own building with it. So we have the split within the Congregationalists. And we also have the arrival of Catholics. The first public Catholic Mass was held in Boston in 1788. And in the 1790s, two French priests arrived, both refugees from the French Revolution, Father Francis Matignon and Father Jean Chevreuse, both French priests, and there were other French refugees, and also a growing number of Irish coming into Boston. And Fathers Matignon and Chevreuse attended to the spiritual needs of Catholics throughout New England. There was a small Catholic group in Maine, a group in the Connecticut River Valley in New Hampshire, and Chevreuse and Matignon traveled throughout New England. In 1806 or so, Chevreuse built a Church of the Holy Cross on Franklin Street, church designed by Charles Bulfinch. And in fact, Chevreuse raised money from Congregationalists like John Adams to build this church. As Chevreuse knew, he had to get along with the establishment, the Protestant establishment here in Boston. In 1808, Boston was elevated to a diocese. There only had been one bishop in the United States. He was based in Baltimore, but in 1808 the Pope creates three more dioceses in Boston, Philadelphia, New York. In 1808 the Pope creates four more dioceses, one in Boston, one in Philadelphia, one in New York, and one in Bardstown, Kentucky. And Chevreuse is the first bishop in Boston. In the 1820s, he goes back to France after the fall of Napoleon and the restoration of the Roman Catholic Church is allowed in France. Chevreuse returns and becomes the cardinal in Bordeaux. So Boston's first cardinal actually serves in France, although Chevreuse maintains a warm relationship with Boston and with the people of Boston throughout his life. In 1819, Chevreuse built the first Catholic, or now the oldest Catholic church in Massachusetts, St. Augustine's Chapel in South Boston. He built it as a final resting place for his friend Father Matignon, who had died in 1818. St. Augustine's opened on July 4th of 1819. The Baptists also now were making inroads. Before the Revolution, the Baptists had protested being taxed by the Congregationalists. But now the Baptists build churches in Boston. Asher Benjamin, one of the great architects of the 19th century, builds them their meeting house on Charles Street, which still stands, the Third Baptist Church, built in 1807. It was built on Charles Street, right on the shores of the Charles River and the Back Bay, so that the members could be baptized. A central part of being a Baptist is the belief in adult baptism as opposed to infant baptism. So we have, by the 1820s, a growing religious diversity in Boston, with the Unitarians arising out of the Congregational Church, the growth of the Catholic Church, the Baptists, other religious traditions now being professed openly in what had been a closed Puritan society just a few years earlier.